As the fiscal year comes to a close and the new year for CSI begins next month, we thought this would be the perfect time to discuss member motivation. Whether you're a seasoned CSI leader, an active volunteer, or stepping into your first chapter, region, or national leadership role, the best resource as a CSI leader is, of course, talking to other leaders. Today, you get the chance to learn from Cherise Schachter, CSI CDT, otherwise known by many on your line as the CSI Kraken. Cherise has worked in AEC for 30 years and is a passionate advocate for all things CSI, having joined 2.5 years ago. Since joining, Cherise has been involved at the chapter level and is the incoming president of the Portland chapter, and at the national level as the Institute's Education Committee Chair and a member of the CSI Academies planning team. Cherise is also actively involved in emerging professional development, programs, chapter education, and is a CDT instructor. Now, when I asked for descriptions of her on Twitter, it was responded by many of our followers that it's impossible to do in 140 characters or less. So a good introduction is to view her blog, The Voices in My Head, or to follow her on Twitter, which is at Cherise Schachter. Now we have a few notes before we begin. Your participation during today's webinar is encouraged. Although attendee audio lines are muted, you can type any questions into the chat box for Cherise at any time during the presentation, or the question box, which should all be on the right-hand side of your panel. We also hope you follow along on Twitter. Today's hashtag is CSI Leaders. Share notes, highlights, and comments to those CSI members who aren't able to attend today. Now, this is a really relaxed webinar. We hope you have a fun experience, that you leave energized for the upcoming year, and that you really get some different perspectives and some new ideas out of this webinar. And so on that note, take it away, Cherise.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I would like to start by thanking Cliff Marvin for showing up to this webinar 40 minutes early. I think that is a very good example of being passionate about CSI. And welcome to my own special brand of crazy. I know that some of my Twitter connections are out there and probably tweeting right now. I'm rather thankful I can't see that. And they have been warned that they better behave, because most of them, I'm sure, will be at Construct in Baltimore, where I can get my hands on them. Our hashtag again today is CSI Leaders, if you're tweeting. A lot of this isn't really important in the context of our webinar today, except for a lot of people who would do a presentation of this type on sharing your passion and motivating people would likely be more in the sales or marketing industry. I'm not one of those people. Respect them to death, but I'm rather an introvert, at least until I get to know you. Then it's a whole different story. I've spent 30 years in AEC doing technical, quiet, detail-oriented work. And so one of the messages I'd like to get across really early in the game is that it has not been easy for me as a leader to kind of step out of that comfort zone and put myself in a position of sharing the passion I do have for this organization, which is probably a little bit on the insane side. But it's something I've had to learn to do, because that's my job as a leader. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how to, for an industry full of introverts, to step out of your comfort zone and share that passion and infect other people with it. The other important thing about this slide is that I've got this thing about making snow angels. It is liberating. It brings out my inner child. I tried to escape this webinar today by using my inner child as an excuse, but Kate was having none of it. But that's an important thing to remember about me, because that's probably the real me when I'm not being an introvert in that picture right there. So I am not opposed at all to total CSI world domination. And that's kind of my mission going into my term on July 1st as chapter president in Portland. And I'm looking for more of you to get that same mindset and to take that back to your chapters and take it to the next level. find that passion. I think the last number of years with our economy downturn and people losing jobs and being asked to do twice as much for half as much in a lot of our work environments has kind of really put a damper on the people that we are and the passion that we share. And things are getting better, slowly but surely, and I'm here to say to you we need to change that, and we need to change it right now. We all know that a bulk of our membership is older, and we're not getting enough younger professionals joining us to benefit from the experience of those members. And we need to change the way we do things in order to get those people involved. You can, as long as you're not mad, you can find me at any of these places. I am involved in all of these things directly as a result of CSI members who inspired me, or taught me, or influenced me, or took the time out to pull me out of my shell if I was sitting in the back of the room and I didn't know anybody. It all started with Joy Davis's social media return on investment class that made me think, this Twitter thing sounds interesting. Maybe I'll go check it out. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I believe I'm up to about 25,000 tweets in the 2 years since I took that class, so obviously I kind of decided to stay there. The Voices in My Head is my blog that is a direct result of friends that I've made on Twitter and in my chapter that encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and share some of the voices in my head. And trust me, there's many. So let's talk about passion.
Hey, Sharice, just cutting in for a second. If you can make sure that your slides are in full screen mode, some of them can't see the very bottom of your slides and are looking forward to seeing your CSI Kraken rules.
Okay, I believe I am in full screen mode.
Alrighty. Well, for those of you who can't see, we will be sharing the slides after today's presentation, so I promise you will get all of the Kraken rules later. Thanks, Sharice.
Sorry. Just double checking to make sure. So, sorry. Passion. So I looked around. I know what I think passion is. And I looked around, and I prefer the Urban Dictionary description on what passion is, because for me, when I'm passionate about something, I'm all in. I'm all in 150%. Not that I expect everybody to be that way all the time, but for me it has to be that way. And so this presentation isn't really going to be about finding your passion. I think we all have that in us, and we have it to share. It's going to be more about sharing it, finding the way to share it. Well, what do we need to do to share it and to help bring it out in others? I've met some amazing people in the last couple years who have really influenced my life in ways I didn't and wouldn't have ever expected, influenced my career, influenced me as a person. I don't think that I ever would have had the benefit of that interaction had I not opened myself up and put myself out there. And in our industry of introverts, I find many of us who find that difficult. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about inspiration. We're going to talk about motivation. My favorite part of this slide is the tweet that I have there from Allie Clark, who is a young professional who is now on our Portland Board of Directors. Said, Sharice, you have always been nice to me, although I have always joined all the committees you asked me to. Is that connected? Question mark. Actually, I think it is. I'm not being nice to her just because she joined all the committees I wanted her to, but I think she joined those committees because I was nice to her, because I accepted her as an equal. We are a few years apart in our experience and background in this business, but she has amazing things to teach me, and we've connected, and she's awesome, and I'm thrilled to have her involved with us, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to make those connections. Okay, so I thought about what do I tell you on how to find inspiration? And honestly, everybody's different. Everybody has different talents and skills to offer. And so I thought, okay, forget it. There's no way I'm going to tell people how to find their inspiration. But I can share how I find mine. And it's made a difference. I believe it's made a difference in our chapter and the way our members interact. It might be just because I'm crazy, or it might be because somebody just needed somebody else to be crazy first. But some of the ways that I find my inspiration and how I try to share that with others is you have to get out of your own head. It's so easy just to look at things the way you see it. And it's so easy to say, this is the best way to do it. You have to get out of your own head and see what other people have to offer. And I mean everybody, young professionals, senior professionals, everybody in the middle. It can't be just one way, and it can't always be the same way. What are your members feeling? What are they interested in? We have to start asking those questions and having those conversations. One of my favorite things to do is finding the weirdest person in the room. And I mean that in the most positive way. I love the people who are different, who are unconventional. And my absolute favorites are actually the introverts. The most wicked sense of humors I have encountered are from the people who are sitting quiet over in the corner, that if you did not approach them and draw them out, you would never discover this hidden gem inside. It's just blown me away what has come out of some of the quietest people I've encountered. And I'm going to share a few pictures of some of those people in a little bit to kind of illustrate the sense of humor and the kind of hidden person in there that sometimes you have to go find. One of the things that really inspires me is I don't like somebody telling me I can't do something, or I can't achieve something, or we have always done it this way, or that's just not going to work. The absolute best thing you can get me to do to work 250% is tell me something's not going to work, because I'm going to make it work. You just challenged me. And when I am working with other members in our chapter and trying to be the best leader that I can, if I enjoy being challenged, I'm kind of guessing most other people do too. And so sometimes it's kind of fun to throw a little challenge down. How about you take this, you run with it, you own it, and you make it happen. I see more results from that attitude rather than let me hold your hand and tell you how to do it, which is not my style anyway. Another thing that inspires me is the constant need to learn. I'm easily bored, and if I'm not excited and engaged in something I'm doing, I'm likely not going to participate or hang around much. And it doesn't take a whole lot for me to get bored. So I need things to be changing and new and interesting all the time. And once again, when I think about our members and what do I, especially coming in as president of the chapter after only being in CSI for 2.5 years, I'm a little intimidated by that. And I'm really motivated to make sure that I can do the best job possible. So I assume that my members want the same thing. They want things that are new and cutting edge and really adding value to their daily life at work. And so having that kind of at the front of your mind when you're dealing with your members, I think, is an important thing to do. Another thing that motivates me is being able to just take a vision out of nowhere and turn it into something. And I'll illustrate that, one example of that, a little later in the slideshow. But being part of a great program and being part of it happening is, for me, very much something to be proud of and gives me a sense of accomplishment. The most important thing for me in how I deal with trying to motivate members and trying to get people more involved and more engaged is inspiring others. It's almost like a natural high for me. If I can do something and say something that gets somebody more involved and you can see the spark. You can see the light turn on, and you can see the heart rate go up, and what about this and what about that, and you're listening and you're engaging and you're collaborating and everybody's getting excited. And I swear I could do that for a living if I could find a way to do that, because it just feels so good. And all of a sudden, same old's not same old anymore. And it's getting interesting and it's getting fun. You know, and obviously there's a lot of satisfaction in success. But the key here, the real key here is change. We have to be willing to change. Our world is changing. Our technology is changing. The way our younger professionals are learning and learning to complete tasks, and the way that they work is changing. We have to keep up. The experience, most of the leaders in most of our chapters are the longer term, more experienced CSI members. We cannot afford to get stagnant, or we are going to be non-existent. We have to keep up, we have to learn something new, and we have to get excited again. So what motivates people? Hands down, they have to feel welcome. They have to feel like you want them there, that they have something to offer, and you think they're important and they're needed. I can sit and talk about just this one item all day long. And I catch myself, you know, doing things like going to a chapter meeting and sitting with the other board members, or, you know, talking to the people I already know, because it's more comfortable for people who are not super comfortable in a room full of people they don't know. You put me in a room full of people I know, it's a whole different story, but you put me in a room of people I don't, and it's rather uncomfortable. So it's easy to go where you're comfortable. Nothing changes if you go where you're comfortable. You don't discover the hidden gems in your membership that have some amazing things to offer, that want to get involved and are just waiting to be asked, if you stay in your comfort zone. It's really, really important to not only meet these members that you don't know. Maybe you see them every meeting, but you've never spoken to them. But it's important to know them. Find out the little things about them that make them special and make them important, and remember those things. Nothing makes a person feel better than to be remembered the next time they see you. You remember to ask about their child who's, they told you was playing lacrosse in a championship, or just, you know, whatever. You know they like Mounds bars for some bizarre reason. You know that, and maybe you bring them one in a meeting just to say, hey, that was really cool that you helped us out last meeting with this. Those little acknowledgments and paying attention give people the warm fuzzies. And chapters, trust me, it's going on a whole lot in our chapter, and I'm just loving watching it. Those warm fuzzies make the world go round. The other big important thing is acknowledgement and gratitude. We all know that we do this because we care about it. We're passionate about it. We're working for free. Some of us put in a lot of hours. And we do it because we want to. We're not expecting, nobody's expecting anything from that. But, for example, I would be a total liar if I didn't say I wasn't flattered when Kate asked me to do this webinar. She didn't just ask me to do a webinar. She said, you can talk about whatever you want, Cherise. That's a lot of faith to put in somebody that you don't know very well, that's not a long-time member, that she trusted me to put something together that would be hopefully kind of reasonable. That made me feel good. And I've received a number of emails, thank you so much, this is great. Nobody's looking for gratitude, but you'd be a liar to say that you didn't feel it and you didn't appreciate it. You have to not be the talking head in front of the room. You have to be ready to work as hard as everybody around you is working, or harder, and lead by example. I don't know, but for me, if somebody's standing up there and pointing the finger, and you do this and you do that, and there's no give and take, there's no input, there's no collaboration, and and there's just a lot of do this, do that. I don't feel much like I'm really involved in that process. I feel like I'm working, but I don't really feel invested, emotionally invested, passionate about what I'm doing because I have no input. We have to work together. We have to be collaborative with our members. We have to listen and embrace their ideas and let them have a voice. But not only let them have the voice, let them run with some of those ideas. We're not really changing the world here with some of these meetings and lectures. The worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to fail. That's the very worst thing that can happen. But the best thing that's going to happen is it's going to be amazing, and maybe that amazing is going to be something that spreads to other chapters, which we're going to talk about an example of that. We have to be more collaborative, and for those of us that might be on the uphill side of 30 or 40 or, one of those kind of ages, we have to remember that we don't know it all. We know a lot, and we have a lot to offer, but the same is true at the other end of the spectrum of our membership, and we need that education as much as they need the education we have to offer. So get the younger people involved. Always, hands down, be positive and keep your sense of humor. Being positive in a negative situation, it's not naive, it's leadership. That's our job. It's our job to hold it together when everybody else is getting stressed out, when something goes wrong and it's starting to fall apart. That one calm, quiet, positive voice in the middle of that ruckus can usually turn everything around, especially if you crack a really good joke right in the middle of it. But we have to stay positive, and we have to keep our sense of humor because, this is a thing that we're all working towards the same goal. We're not going to solve world peace or world hunger in a CSI meeting. And since we're not, there's no reason we can't laugh at our failures, because you're not ever going to grow or succeed if you don't fail first.
No, Charisse, I love that, especially from the standpoint of if you think about all the time you've worked in a group setting, when the leaders are stressed out, everybody's stressed out. And then you don't get those new ideas and those new perspectives. So have you seen really at the chapter level that the more loose and having fun and engaged you are, is that time when those brainstorming sessions happen and those new ideas are taking place?
Well, absolutely. I really think leadership comes from the top down. And if you can't hold it together and you can't lead, nobody else is going to be able to follow. And it's the same for inspiration and motivation. I find the more inspired I am about an idea, usually because I have the biggest mouth in the room, everybody hears about it, the more inspired everybody else gets. It's contagious. It is totally and completely contagious. It's like the best infectious disease you can get, besides all the other infectious diseases I had over the last 24 hours.
Mitch Miller is doing something great. He's being sarcastic with this question boxes, saying, I never have any fun. However, I'm pretty sure one of Mitch's mantra is, if you're not having fun at CSI, you're doing it wrong. So, again, you're all here because you're passionate, you're great, you're having a good time. So we thank you, and make sure you are enjoying being a volunteer and being a leader and sharing your passion. And no, Mitch, I do not have ice cream at the end of this presentation. I am sorry.
No, but I do have some pictures of Mitch in this presentation. So maybe he didn't want to get that sarcastic quite that quickly. So how do we inspire other people? Again, we need to lead by example. We need to be the positive one in the room, the collaborative one in the room, the one bringing everybody together. We need to celebrate the successes of our members. We absolutely need to do a better job, at least. Okay, I'm speaking for my chapter, everybody's different, but I know we need to do a better job of getting to know each and every person in that room at our chapter meetings or our different events. I've been forcing myself to walk away from the people I know and approach people I've never seen before. And it's making a difference, and I'm meeting more cool people every day. You can't be afraid to get excited. I've really that one's just kind of come through the back door with me over the last couple of years. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes the only thing it takes is for one person to get a little goofy about a great idea. And all of a sudden, everybody's getting goofy about that great idea, and everybody's looking for ways to make it better. But in our society of rather introverted people, it seems like a lot of people are afraid to be that first one to get goofy. So consider that. Consider about, getting the troops excited, getting out your pom-pom, which I will literally be doing at Construct this year if anybody's interested, because I'm not running in that fun run, but I'm going to cheer. But don't be afraid to be that first one to stand up and get everybody going. And for goodness sakes, don't go it alone. Us leader types tend to be a little type A and just run with the ball. And it's sometimes easier just to do it all yourself to get it done. That's not our job, and it's something I have to keep beating my head against the wall to get in my own head. My job as a leader is to be a servant first. I'm there to help my members in the chapter, to help them shine and to find their talents and to give them the avenues to become a bigger part of CSI. And so my whole little control freak, just get it all done because I want to go 200 miles an hour has to be reined in, which is not always an easy thing to do, but I'm learning. I have some very good friends that remind me on a regular basis. But the most important thing is to show your gratitude and to have some fun. So, what's it going to take? Are your meetings stale? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Are your members bored, or do they feel unappreciated? If any of those things are going on in your chapter, or maybe they're not, but you want to make it better, you as the leaders are the ones that are in charge of making that change happen. It's up to you to bring those people together to make that difference. And I tried to come up with this great little list of ideas of how you can make your chapter amazing and vibrant and fun and educational and all of those things. And I kept coming up with these kind of generic lists you find online, and I decided that I think a better example would be just to share some of the things that we've done in the Portland chapter that have made a difference. Not suggesting that any or all of these will work for you, or maybe some other version of some of these ideas will. But I'd rather speak to actual successes rather than a list of things some website says you're supposed to do. So my proudest accomplishment is the CSI Kraken Committee. And for those of you that know me, already know the story. I'm going to say it like in one sentence or less. At a board meeting, a couple of us got rather boisterous about an idea and getting it done, and things were kind of dragging on. It was all very positive and fun, but our president at the time, Mr. Skip Brown, muttered under his breath, "Geez, release the Krakens." And that was the seed. Don't ask me why it's grown. It's expanded. It started becoming a thing in our chapter that if you want to get something done, go find one of the Krakens. And then after I took Joy's social media class and went to my first Construct, I started tweeting about the Krakens, and then I started tweeting some Kraken rules, which you're seeing some of. I think I'm up to 320 something. You're seeing some of them across the bottom of these slides. And I found that a lot of people in our CSI membership from all over the country were kind of interested in the whole attitude and the whole movement and the kind of the mission behind it of being passionate and supportive and committed and collaborative and positive always, and working together to kind of take our organization and some of the things we do to the next level. So it grew, and we now have people who call themselves CSI Krakens all over the country. I was lucky enough starting in Phoenix at Construct to meet some of these people in person, which kind of developed those relationships even further, to some of which I count as some of my closest friends. But people are excited. They want to do something different. People want their chapters to be excited again. Everybody's tired of being in the rut. I lost a job of 23 years in 2008 that I thought I would probably retire at. Turns out now that it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, but you couldn't have told me that on the day we closed the doors of the firm. People have had some tough roads, and even the people who haven't lost jobs have seen a change in the industry, and people want to be excited. And this one little comment at a board meeting has truly grown into a movement, and I'm proud of everybody who shares the CSI Kraken message and looks to get other people excited and involved. I don't even know how many are calling themselves Krakens now, but I know that there are a few chapters that have asked me for the logo to create their own Kraken committees in their own chapter. And really, there's no real Kraken committee. We are a Kraken committee. There's no meetings, there's no dues. You don't have to do any paperwork. You just have to have an attitude that you're going to share in your chapter and make things grow and make things exciting again. Or more exciting than they already are. Another huge thing that was kind of a 2x4 that hit me upside the back of the head was getting involved in social media. In all honesty, when I went to Joy's first class, I thought Twitter was about the stupidest thing I ever heard of.
And now you're obsessed.
I hear Kate snickering there. I did not see the value of tweeting out that you were at Starbucks, and why the heck I needed to know that. Because truly, I don't care if you're at Starbucks. And I went to Joy's class, and Joy has this way of presenting things in a different light that you pay attention. And she had a lot of good points, and I thought, that sounds like it might have a little more value than I thought. And so I went and signed up for a Twitter account and started tweeting, and you'll see a number of people tweeting with the CSI Kraken hashtag. I am amazed at the brain trust of professionals and CSI members that I really truly feel like I have at my disposal across the country and outside of the United States. We have our crazy Canadian who always wants to stick his 2 cents in there. I know he's not here today, so I can make fun of him. But there's just some amazing people that if you have a question in 140 characters, if you can phrase it in 140 characters or less, you're going to get an answer. And if your answer can't be in 140 characters, somebody's going to email you, or they're going to send you documents, or they're going to send you forms. The collaboration in the CSI community across the country on social media, whether it be Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever you're involved with, just absolutely blows my mind. I have never met more helpful people. And so you might be thinking, well, what does that do for me in my chapter? One of the things that we've started doing in Portland is we started tweeting all of our chapter meetings, almost every single one, anyone that can be. So if we have a speaker, it's usually me, is tweeting that content out to other CSI members. We found that other CSI members are actually interested in reading those tweets and possibly trying those meetings. And all of a sudden, we're not only collaborating within our chapter to take it to another level with new content, but we're sharing that information now across the country back and forth. And most recently, just last week, Portland CSI launched our own YouTube channel. And we're going to start, we've already done a couple of major events, and we're going to start videotaping some of our more exciting meetings and sharing that with other chapters. I've found real value from ideas and information that have come from the online community. And same with LinkedIn. You get into a little more detail in LinkedIn, but just these 3 posts alone how to get more younger professionals involved, creating successful chapter programs, and changing up your awards programs. All topics that we as leaders have to deal with all the time. It would take me forever to pick up the phone and call all of these CSI members all over the country to get some input. And in one place, when people have time, I can get a wealth of information in a day or two from all over the country and get amazing new ideas to enrich my program and the way I work with my members in my chapter. So one of those new things that we tried, about 2 years ago, we had what we called a Grill the Specifier meeting. What made this different and unique, panel presentations are almost always pretty popular. This panel had no idea what they were in for. They knew that they were specifiers. There was, I think, 5 of them and a moderator that were going to be sitting on the stage, but they were not allowed to have any idea what the audience was going to ask them. And so it almost felt a little bit like a roast. The audience was told to behave, and they did. But it was fun because people got excited about stumping the specifier. And the specifiers couldn't be prepared because they didn't know what people were going to ask. So it was very dynamic. It was exciting. I think we had close to 100 people attend this particular chapter meeting, and we tweeted it out on Twitter as well to share the information. At one point, one of the specifiers on this stage told the product rep that if they bribed him with a boat, he would get them in their specs. Okay, we know he's not supposed to be doing that, but it was funny. And it was an engaging, entertaining meeting that was so awesome, we have decided to do a whole series of them. What was really great is because we tweeted that information out there. Off the top of my head, I know that San Francisco has started their own Grill the Specifier Contractor Product Rep series. So has Allentown. I know there's others. I couldn't find their tweets quickly enough to put them in here. But it's a great example of sharing something a little different that we did, that was fun, that worked, and is now working in other chapters. Oh, and look at Mitch and his beautiful hat there. Another one is awards. This has been a rather hot topic lately. Do you do the formal evening dinner awards or lunch awards, or do you do something different? Are you appreciating your members enough if you do something more casual? We used to do a member appreciation picnic that the chapter paid for in August, and we did our awards in June at a more formal sit-down lunch. And I think our last lunch awards program we did, maybe 20 people showed up, and half of them were probably awards recipients. We just were not getting people involved. So last year we decided to combine the member appreciation event and the funds that were allocated to that with the June awards and do something totally different. And just last week we had our second annual chili cook-off and awards. As you can see, I'm pretty sure people are not looking too bored at this event. Some of these people in here that you see in coconut bras and feather boas are rather quiet, reserved, and very intelligent and engaging people that normally would not be running around in coconut bras and feather boas. But by getting them involved and getting them engaged and showing, just by maybe being that one that's a little silly first, but it's okay to have a good time, you discover this hidden personality that totally changes the dynamic of your meeting. And yes, I would like to report that at the Chili Cook-Off and Awards this year, the CSI Kraken team did take the Grand Champion Award again. That's important to know. Lecture series. Okay, lecture sounds pretty boring, and we're really working on finding a better name. But we launched a new series of classes last year, our education committee. They are right after work. They are short and sweet. It costs $10. You get beer and pizza, and you get to learn something. These have been a pretty big hit. Our Bluebeam, using Bluebeam for construction class, was standing room only. I think we probably had around 60 people in that room, and we expected about 25. It attracts young professionals because it's not a $50 chapter dinner meeting, it's a $10 meeting with beer and pizza. We have a lot of talent in our chapter that might not have something to offer that would be well suited to a large chapter meeting, but would be perfect for these smaller, more intimate venues. And the fact that I think we have 8 on our education committee and at least half of them are younger professionals keeps it interesting. They're helping us, who've been around a while, know some of the newer, more cutting edge things that are going on. And this has been pretty successful. Our goal this next year is to focus strictly on building technology for the entire lecture series and at least double the lectures we have this next year. It was well worth it. This series is not to make money, it's to provide value to our members, young and seasoned alike. Another successful thing we've done is our chapter CDT Scholarships. A lot of chapters have scholarships and it's awesome. We were trying to look for a way to get younger members involved in our chapter that are in our area. So we call this our Emerging Professional CDT Scholarship, but for the case of this scholarship, you need to have 10 years or less experience. We don't define emerging professional according to CSI membership rules for this scholarship, but more real-life rules. And in your first 10 years, oftentimes you don't, till towards the end of 10 years, do you even start having exposure to some of the things we teach. We cover everything except for the first $100 of their membership if they're not already a member. They don't even have to be a CSI member to apply for this scholarship. We're trying to bring them in. We're trying to show them value. We pay for everything else with the exception of the exam. They pay for the exam and we reimburse them when they pass. The pictures that you see on the screen are this year's scholarship recipients. 3 happen to be from my firm because I walk around with a sharp stick. And I'm especially proud of that because they're all engineers. And we don't have a ton of engineers in CSI, and that's a personal mission of mine is to get more involved. They're way too involved in the project not to have this education. And then Jake at the top is an architect here in Portland and just recently got nominated to our board, or elected to our board, over some more experienced members. Congratulations, Jake, by the way. I don't know if you're here today. The driving piece of this effort is getting younger professionals involved in the chapter. It's hard sometimes with the younger professionals for them to see the value till you kind of get their hands dirty. So if you receive this scholarship, you make a 1-year commitment to committee of your choice, whatever interests you in our chapter, and you agree to attend at least 4 chapter meetings throughout the year. This has been working pretty well. Like anything else, it's not perfect. Some don't end up being as involved as you like, but most of them are, and it's really brought a different dynamic to our chapter that has been pretty exciting.
Hey, Charisse, we have a question about the lecture series from Leanne Slattery. And she's curious to know how long do the lecture series normally last, and do attendees get credits for attending them?
We do have the ability. Hi, Leanne, by the way. Nice to hear from you. I hope I'm going to see you in Baltimore. We have been registering our lecture series classes for AIA credits. Our chapter is signed up with whoever at AIA so that we can do that. We typically start them at 5:30, and we have the beer and pizza waiting at 5:30. So during that half hour of networking time, people are eating beer and pizza, which usually continues into the lecture, and then the lecture goes from 6 to 7. We try to give people enough time to get there after work, have a little something to eat because they're usually hungry by that time of the day, and settle in for a 1-hour lecture. On occasion, depending on the content, it might be a little bit longer. It really depends on who our speaker is and what they have to offer, but we do get them registered, and we do try to get them fed and in and out in a fairly short period of time in, as compared to what our chapter meeting might be. And so far it's worked great.
Right. We also have a couple questions. A lot of people, both on Twitter and in the question box, seem very interested in that CDT scholarship idea. Faith Brown asks, says, interested in that scholarship, is there a formal application? And does your certification chair visit local firms to get the word out?
There is a formal application, if you want to call it that. One of my pet peeves about scholarships, and this comes from having my youngest son, which is why I have time to be just this crazy. My youngest son just graduated from high school last week, and so empty nest is looming. And we've been applying for scholarships, and I think they are the most obnoxious, pain in the rear end thing I've ever done. And so our goal with our application is very simple. We want your name, your address, where you work, how long you've been in the industry, and a paragraph about why you want this scholarship and what discipline you represent. And we don't care if you're a contractor, an engineer, an architect, you might be an administrative person. You just have to work in the industry and give us a paragraph of why you want to, why you're interested in this. That's really our application process. We try to, if we have enough applicants, distribute the scholarships equally among different disciplines, so we are bringing a varied batch of new members into the chapter with that. Last year I think we had 1 contractor, 2 architects, 2 engineers, 1 subcontractor, and I can't remember what the last one was. This year we didn't have the same balance of applicants, so we had 3 engineers and 1 architect. And that's all who applied. We actually had more money to give out in the CDT scholarships. All 4 people this year who applied got the scholarship. Our certification chair does not necessarily go out to firms, but we do a number of marketing efforts to get the word out. We talk about it in our newsletter. We send emails out to firms all over town. We let some of our partner organizations that we cross disciplines with, like AIA and other organizations, know about it. So we do a number of marketing efforts to get that word out.
Now, Sharice, going off of what you're talking about with funding, Brian Varner had a question about really what's the fiscal impact of the CDT Scholar Program and what you guys see as the main ROI.
The main ROI is that we're bringing in young professionals who have something to offer, that are getting their CDT education right out of the chute. So they are understanding our education program coming in as members, and we're getting them involved in our chapter. This particular effort is about spending money to gain value for our chapter and to get more of that market involved by giving them something that they need for their career. So honestly, that's how I sell it when I talk to people about applying for it, is this will help your career. You will be head and shoulders above your peers if you do this now. Young professionals want to know what the value is to them.
And Brian had a follow-up question, or a follow-up 3 questions. He types fast. Good job, Brian. He is curious about the pass rate, and then if they are enjoying CSI and how many of them are actually really contributing as volunteers and getting involved.
Well, I will tell you that this year all 4 of our scholarship recipients passed. One of them, Jake, was just elected to our board of directors. They just passed in April, and they all put it off till the end of April. So they're just starting to get their feet wet. We don't require them to start getting involved in their committees and with the chapter until they've passed the test, because we want to give them, people are busy. They're working hard and they have to study for this exam. Last year we had 6 scholarship recipients and 5 of the 6 passed. And all of them have been, all but 1 have been fairly present and active in the chapter. I think I roped 3 of them onto my education committee. So I know where to find them with my sharp stick. But we're pretty positive about the results. You can't force people to come. You can put the requirements out there and hope that they do. But they're putting a lot of effort into that CDT, and in all honesty, they're putting a little bit of their own neck on the line because they have to pay for their exam until they pass. The chapter is not reimbursing them for that exam until they pass. So there is some investment by these people coming in to this effort into getting that education and getting involved.
All right.
We're spending anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 a year, depending on how many we decide to award or how many applicants we have.
All right. Since we have some more questions coming in, Therese, I'm going to go ahead and hold the other questions for the end of your presentation. And again, guys, feel free to ask them on Twitter or to ask any questions in the CSI Leaders LinkedIn group if you want to discuss a certain project more in depth. So, Therese, take it away.
I will, and I'm getting pretty darn close here. So really, it's all about gratitude. We have added a Kraken Committee gratitude column to our newsletter every month. And there's no rhyme or reason to who goes in it. It's really whichever voice in my head is loudest that particular day, or what stands out for me. Add a moment to your chapter meetings to notice people. People, I don't care what they tell you, it feels good to be noticed. It feels good to be recognized. Handwritten thank you notes, or some little trinket that means something to somebody, or just something to say that I not only acknowledge you, but I know you as a person and I appreciate you, goes a long way. An example of that, I won't name names because I'd probably get in a lot of trouble, but I had one of our CSI members ask me to fill in for him for a CDT class that he was teaching because something came up at work with a deadline. And I had not taught this class before, and so it was rather a scramble since I think I was contacted the day before the class for me to prepare to teach this class. And he was still there when I got there, although he had to leave. And he had a little airplane bottle of tequila for me. I thought it was kind of sweet that he went to the time and effort to have this little bottle of tequila for me to say, thank you for stressing out and running around like a crazy woman. When you're done with the class, you can have this if you want. I still have it at home. It's my emergency break in case of emergency stock. But it was thoughtful, and it made me feel good that he appreciated the effort I was making to pick this up for him. Dumb little thing. It doesn't take much to make somebody feel good. But you can't say thank you enough. This young lady in this picture right here is absolutely insane. Erica, I love you. I hope you're not out there because you're going to shoot me for saying that. She almost single-handedly planned our Northwest Region Conference. A lot of us were involved. A lot of us did pieces and parts. But this girl is just absolutely amazing. This is probably the 4th or 5th recognition she's gotten from me, publicly. People feel good and they want to keep being involved and they want to do more to help the chapter be better. So probably one of my single most memorable things that I've done in CSI in recent months, in the last couple of years, has been to attend Construct, the CSI Academies, and my first region conference, which happened to be in my city last month. My first Construct was in Phoenix, and I did not know a soul there, except for a little bit of online activity on Twitter because I had taken Joy's class prior to that at the CSI Academies. So there were a couple of familiar faces, but really not many. And they were having a tweet up, which is a meeting of all the people who talk on Twitter. And I don't even know if I've ever told anybody this before, but I came within like a hair of not going to that tweet up. You know, it's one thing to talk to people online hiding behind a computer. It's a whole other thing to sit with a whole bunch of them that you've never met before in one place. But I told myself, okay, you're trying to step outside of your comfort zone, so I went, and I have some of the most amazing friends. Because I went. And I stayed on my introvert side in Phoenix. And you can see some of the people that I've met along the way through some of those things. Hi, Thad, I think you're out there. And Mr. John Gwill, who we call Ascot Man on Twitter. But just awesome people who've become the greatest friends. And then last year, I went to Nashville. And the conference planner at Hanley Wood, Paul, who's no longer with them now, convinced me that I really needed to present. And I had met him in Phoenix, and I don't know where the heck that was coming from because I never spoke in public until Nashville. And all of these awesome, amazing people came to my class. They supported me. They tweeted it out. You see a picture of my shoes there because that was a topic of conversation for weeks before Construct. Once again, these aren't people in my chapter, but more people because I came back excited about Construct and the people that I've met and the people that have become a part of my life. More people in my chapter want to go. I'm expecting a rather large contingent from Portland coming to Baltimore this year. It's another way to get excited. It's another way to step out of your comfort zone and learn new things that you can take back to your chapter. You can dance on the stairs with people. Kate, is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah, that's a horrible picture, by the way. I thought you'd be nice to me. You do the bad pictures of Mitch. You do the good pictures of me, Charisse. New rule.
Yeah, well, Mitch is a whole other story, but I thought that was a rather adorable picture, especially as proper as John Will is, that you got him in this picture. Just another one that has just a wicked sense of humor. If you take a little while to get past his absolute proper behavior at all times. Great event, great. I encourage people to get more of their members involved. It's just an inspiring thing that makes you want to go back to your chapter and just be amazing and do crazy things. So the bottom line, we're almost there, people. It's really all about the people. The content completely takes a back seat. That will come naturally if you have amazing, engaged, inspired people. You really need to feed and water your people, and you need to be a part of them, and you need to listen and get excited and show it so they know it's okay to get excited and show it too. We need to share more with our industry partners. I got to speak to the American Society of Irrigation Consultants. Didn't even know there was such a society until recently, which was an absolutely awesome experience. And I'm visiting the professional estimators in October. Start sharing resources. It's a great way to bring more value to your members and more variety to your members without having to break the bank. I really do urge more chapters to get involved with social media. Sometimes people are doing amazing things and other people could be doing those same amazing things if they knew about it. So share that information and get to know other people so that we can all enrich each other. Get people involved. I swear, all somebody has to do is ask me, and I'm usually saying yes, which gets me in all kinds of trouble all the time. But ask somebody to do something small and build your way up. Don't overwhelm them right off the bat. Maybe it's just helping set something up at a chapter meeting, and maybe it's the next time greeting the speakers. But start pulling them in little bits at a time, and before you know it, they're taking things on and they're sharing new ideas and bringing more to the table. I don't know if I have told you to be thankful enough, but I'm going to say it again. And don't be afraid to change. The world is not going to end if you have a chapter meeting that stinks. It's not. You're going to have some cranky people, and they're going to complain, and you'll talk to them, and then you'll change things so it doesn't happen again. But if you don't step outside of that comfort zone and try something new, you're never going to know how great it could have been. So, in closing, I'm going to ask for all of you to spend a moment of silence while I, for the benefit of a very good CSI friend of mine, read the very last slide that I have word for word, every single one. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Thank you.
Thank you, Charisse, and taking your own advice. I am deeply appreciative you've taken the time today to share your thoughts and your knowledge. It is over 3, but Charisse, would you mind hanging on for a little longer and answering some questions?
Sure.
All right, great.
Now that I can breathe.
We had one early on from Brian Varner, kind of commenting about Kraken Rule 15, which was about micromanaging. And he asks, do you think it's okay to discuss the desired outcomes? And he had the concern with sometimes volunteers volunteer and then do nothing. It can be a struggle motivating and sustaining the desire to help out. So when is it the right time, do you think, to really get involved or to lead the way without going into that micromanaging role?
That's a challenge. It really is, because people operate differently. Some people, I have seen some people, I might have been guilty of it even once or twice, procrastinating to the absolute 11th hour and then pulling something amazing out of nowhere. Sometimes you have to just take the risk of letting somebody fail and learning that lesson, that maybe you don't put them in that same position again. Maybe you give them a smaller role. That's hard to do. It is really difficult to do, but sometimes that person pulls it out in the end and does something great. Everybody works differently. I think the best way to deal with that without micromanaging or telling people what to do is just keeping the lines of communication open, checking in. How you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything that you need? Just kind of keeping the conversation going so maybe you can see the warning signs and see if there's some help you can offer to help get through that particular thing. And then maybe consider a different role for that person if they didn't seem to be able to cut that particular task. Maybe consider a different one that might be more well suited to them the next time. But it's a risk you have to take, I think, to find the talent and the energy in people that maybe you hadn't necessarily considered before.
And I think you make a great point, too, of really asking them what they're interested in. It's not seeing a young person come to your chapter, then you're going to be our technology chair, because I'm assuming you know all about websites. But they might not be interested, they might not care, they might not know how to do it. So it's really making sure, I think, of talking to your members and getting them engaged and getting them passionate and getting them involved in something that interests them, instead of just automatically assuming they'll do whatever you want them to do.
And I think that's a good point, Caitlin, because I'll be perfectly honest that some of the things I find most enjoyable, I do my work all day long. Not that I don't enjoy talking about things with my work and sharing information, I do. But I have some of my most fun and I'm most engaged in doing some things that are a little bit out of that particular realm, because I already do that all day. So like you said, having a technology person be your website person just because they happen to have that skill set, if they want to, awesome. But maybe they're really excited about getting involved with programs. You really need to find where their true interest lies, not necessarily where their true skill set is. Because they're going to be most engaged if they're most interested in what they're doing. If they're bored with what they're doing, I don't care if they do technology for a job, you're probably going to have a lousy website.
All right, Faith Brown, we've gotten a lot of questions, and I think you got some CSI Kraken Committee converts on this call, or people that were excited about the movement. Faith Brown wants to know, where are the Kraken shirts available, and how can I get one?
Well, you know, they were a limited edition item. I have all of the logos, and we're having our chapter planning meeting next week for the new year, and I take over as president on July 1st, and one of the items on my agenda is, do we want to put them out again for Construct in Baltimore this fall, which, by the way, I am attending and plan to be all CSI Kraken all over the place, so I hope you're all coming. And so we may be putting them out again. We are also on our website somewhere. There's a place where any chapter that wants to can purchase the logo for $25 is all, and you can do with it whatever you want. We're just trying to recover a little bit of the graphic artist fees that we paid to get the logo done up. I would love to see every chapter in the country develop their own Kraken Committee, the movers and the shakers and the crazy ones. So feel free to email me, Faith, and we'll work something out.
And Sharice, I'll be wearing mine at the fun run, where I believe you and I are taking a taxi and cheering all the runners on, so we don't actually have to, exert that energy.
I have already on my case.
For those of you who want to continue the conversation about some of the best practices or new ideas or sharing programming, I will be doing a follow-up LinkedIn conversation in the CSI Leaders LinkedIn group, because we had a lot of activity on Twitter and a lot of questions about specifics. So again, always remember that your best resource in CSI are other CSI members. Really take advantage of the knowledge bank we have, not only in the industry, but also in our chapter, region, and national leaders. Sharice, do you have anything to add today?
No, I don't. Just don't be afraid to be who you are and to share who that person is with your members, because they like it. Being authentic and genuine and really connecting with your members makes, I love my chapter and I love the people that I interact with, and they're awesome people. Having those connections changes the experience. It brings it to a whole nother level. So if I could leave anybody with anything, make those connections. Make the effort to make those connections and meet new people. All right. Well, I think we are off for a great start for our next fiscal year that starts in July. And with that, we conclude today's CSI Leader webinar. All the staff here at CSI wants to thank all of you for the volunteer work that you do to support and spread CSI mission. We are a member and volunteer organization, so we quite literally couldn't do what we do without you, and especially the people that took the time here today to really learn how to inspire and motivate your members. We appreciate you, and we're so happy to work with you for the next year. So thank you for joining us today, and a big special thanks to Sharice for taking the time to present. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you all.